So good evening and welcome to the proceedings of the Grand Rapids Public School Board. Today is Monday, December 7th, and we will start with the roll call. Ms. Lewis.
Ms. Shackey?
Here.
Mrs. Williams?
Present.
Dr. Baker?
Here.
Ms. Davis?
Here.
Dr. Flores?
Present.
Ms. Lewis is here. Reverend Matias?
Present.
Mr. Ross?
Present.
And President Grant?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Thank you. I do want to make a note. Thank you everyone for being patient with us. We were in a previous meeting, and so that explains why we were all tardy at once. But thank you for your patience. The first thing that we have on tonight's agenda is a celebration, and I would love to invite Eric Harmson and Maggie Malone to join us. All right. I will turn things over to you as we talk about the board and superintendent holiday eCard. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, President Grant and board members. It's my pleasure to introduce Maggie Malone, who will talk about the eCard and the awesome and creative work that the Fine Arts team did.
Thank you, Eric, and thank you, President Grant, Superintendent Roby, and members of the board. It's very exciting to be here again with you to represent the district in presenting this 2020 holiday card on behalf of you and our awesome, amazing Fine Arts team. This year's Fine Arts card has a little COVID twist to it. Normally, as you may be aware, we have our students create the art and the music for the card. This year, our staff is missing our students so much that we took this as an opportunity for our staff to be able to contribute to the card in recognition of our students, because our students are the heartbeat of everything that we do here in the Grand Rapids Public Schools, and we miss them. So this year's card, all of the art was created by staff. We had art contributed by 19 of our amazing art staff members, teachers, and one GRPS administrative assistant who's very artistic and talented. And Karen Brady, one of our amazing art teachers, put the card together this year. Karen is our art teacher at Coit Creative Arts Academy. Karen also, in a previous life, worked professionally as a graphic designer. So we're excited to have Karen's contribution on the card this year. Her support was invaluable. And the music is going to be performed this year by our GRPS performing groups, Staff Notes, GR, made up of 16 of our awesome staff members. Some are music teachers and some, like Eric Harmson, are in our group, and they have a background in music. So we're excited about this year's card in celebration of our students, and excited about our board being able to participate in their part of the card. And without further ado, I would love to share the card with you at this time.
Happy holidays.
So as you can see, this year's efforts were amazing, ending with, of course, the piece de resistance, the board and the superintendent. So thank you, everybody. This was great, great fun this year. And again, we really miss our students and seeing them. So this again was dedicated to our amazing students.
Amazing staff.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, you all. That was beautiful.
That's great.
Next, it made me remember like missing the students' artwork though, and seeing like the kids in the photos. So I'll be excited to hear the feedback when we are able to share that out and everyone's able to see it. Next on the agenda, we have the secretary's report. Ms. Lewis.
Yes. Please check the district's website and go to notice of regular and special board meetings to obtain Zoom virtual meeting access information, or if there will be any changes to doing in-person meetings. Meetings are also noticed and posted outside the district office administration building following the Open Meetings Act requirements. The legislative committee will be meeting on Monday, December 14th at noon. The policy committee will be meeting Wednesday, December 16th at 5 p.m. The Kent County Board of Canvassers issued their official canvass report and provided the certificate of determination, and hereby certify and determine the following candidates have been duly elected to the school board: Christian Grant, Catherine Downs Lewis, Raynard Ross, and Jen Schottke. Each has a new 4-year term starting January 1st and going through December 31st of 2024. Congratulations.
Thank
Yes,
you.
congratulations.
Yeah, applause.
It was tough, Tony. It was tough.
I know. Well, the children of the community are the ones who benefit.
Thank you. You're nice.
Next, we have a committee chair update, and I will start with the conference of the committee chairs. So as you all know, each committee chair meets together in our conference of the committees, and we started that perhaps a year ago. We brought that back around. It was also previously called the executive committee. And in our meeting last month, the conversation was really about trying to set some regular systems and procedures in place as we move into next year. So each committee chair has put together a list of the real work that they think their committee does. We had conversation around previously you become chair of a committee, and the work that the committee does really is shaped by that chair. And that will still happen, but we also know that each chair is able to learn something instead of continually starting over. We want to make sure that the work of the committee is moving forward and becoming stronger. So each chair has outlined a list of 5 to 10 things that they think it is imperative that that committee focuses on and realizes as their work, as well as some things that they think the committee can begin to focus on. And so we're compiling that list, and we'll share it broadly with everyone, but also as we move into next year and there may be new chairs and new committee members in general, love to share that with the other committees so that they're not starting from scratch, but we're all continuing the work of each other. That was the major conversation that we had last month. I will move to Dr. Baker with the Academic Achievement Committee.
Thank you. I appreciate this. Just the major work of the committee the last couple months have been just getting updates on how distance learning is going. That's been the major work, and the committee has asked hard questions about how we're making the transitions, how the district is working with families to make sure they have the technology that they need, and how we can make improvements and also connect to the community. I would like to point out the November minutes that we're approving later in the consent agenda, just to note what we've been working on. There have been ongoing, and the Instructional Council is approving new courses that will be implemented either this year or next year. And I think it's important to make note of those, such as a Spanish for native Spanish speakers course that will begin, Farm Tech Pilot. The other thing that's, I think, most important for us to pay attention to, since the SAT did not happen last spring, the district did implement a fall SAT test for qualifying students, and that's not necessarily required of students. But a range of students took that from 60 to 90% in the districts, and I would like, or actually 100%, nearly 100% at UPrep, city, et cetera. So please take a look at that. And that is all I have.
Dr. Baker, may I ask a question? Do you know if we are giving the PSAT test to other high school students?
We could perhaps ask
Dr. Gorman?
Dr. Gorman or Dr. Roby, if that is the case. What I was referring to is, and the PSAT is not necessarily required every year. The SAT was part of the Michigan merit test that tends to be offered, that is offered every spring and was not offered this last year. So the SAT test that I just referred to was a service to students who were considering college next year that needed to have an SAT course. So maybe perhaps later we'll hear from Dr. Gorman, or maybe perhaps Dr. Roby knows the answer to that question.
Do we know if the other kids, the other high school kids, are going to get that, Dr. Gorman?
So, Dr. Roby, may I chime in? Thank you. So we are in discussions right now with our testing department. We tried our very best to find maybe a weekend date for the PSAT so that we didn't have to bring lots of students back into the buildings. What we found with working with our assessment department is there are no weekend assessments available. This is a very this is a test that we want our students to take because there are scholarship dollars attached to it. So we'll be working out a plan. Of course, we'll be coordinating with Dr. Roby and the cabinet, as well as the high school principals, to see if we can conduct this test in a comparable manner like we did with the SAT test back in the fall, where we social distance and things went very well. So even if we're in a 100% virtual space for high school students or some type of hybrid model, we will try our very best to provide that opportunity for our students to take the PSAT, because of course there are scholarship dollars assigned or aligned with that particular assessment.
A brief question about the Spanish for Spanish speakers or native speakers. I don't know if that's for you, Dr. Baker, or where,
You can start with me.
where will those classes be taught?
That was a course proposal from Union High School, from a teacher at Union High School, and I believe he will teach the pilot.
Okay, I think that's so important to overall meeting the needs and differentiating instruction for our native English language learners and those that speak some limited Spanish. Certainly, you know, biliteracy is very important, and that's a necessary pillar to developing competence in 2 languages.
Well, and I also to just agree with that. It recognizes that our students bring assets to the classroom, and rather than starting with as if they don't have this knowledge, they're starting with that knowledge, and can also celebrate the cultural and geographical and historical contributions as well. So I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, thank you.
One quick thing about that, I'm curious. Do you know, maybe it's the cart before the horse, but is it part of the plan to have sort of a base screening assessment to determine readiness or placement for this course as opposed to traditional Spanish?
That obviously I don't have that, and what my report was suggesting was that the Instructional Council had vetted this course and gave it its approval in the November meeting. I don't know if Dr. Gorman knows any more details on that.
Yeah, that hasn't been determined, Mr. Ross. Again, it was just a kind of an overview of the course.
Thank you.
I'd like to add that I took that class in college, and being born in this country and having receptive Spanish skills, it really enabled me to become a bilingual teacher.
I would like to ask another question, please. This probably is for Dr. Roby or Dr. Gorman, but my memory of this is that the PSAT test was given to kids in junior high and in high school, and that we use those scores as some sort of recognition of how well kids are doing from year to year, or am I totally remembering this wrong? Which could happen.
For this particular PSAT, we will only be focusing on high school students because it's attached to scholarship opportunities. We will not be doing it. We will not be pulling students into buildings at the middle school level to provide this assessment. So you are correct. In previous years, it's a nice way to prepare for the SAT because there's a tremendous amount of alignment. And hopefully when we get back to face-to-face, we will be able to provide our students with adequate preparation. But this that we're talking about right now, would only be for our high school students.
Perfect. Thank you. I am going to jump in here. I want to make sure that we have sufficient time for Ms. Barron and Ms. Bora, I hope that I pronounced that correctly, to present, and they do have to leave at a certain time. So I'm going to keep us moving. Thank you all. Next, we have the Finance Committee update.
All right, good evening. I will try to keep this really brief. We have an increase in the blanket fund for repairs for our electronics, and so that's on the agenda tonight, as well as some support items such as portable thermometers, pencils, so that students don't have to share envelopes, and things that the cleaning supply staff will need as well. So those are coming from the CARES dollars as much as possible. And there is a dashboard that Mr. Oberst has put together for us to review, as well as there are donations and grants that are for us to vote on as well tonight. And those are pretty straightforward and are on the agenda as well. The last thing I think I'll mention briefly is that the 99% of the taxes came in and they were more than expected. And we think things are looking pretty good so far. So Mr. Oberst is keeping us pretty much on track and keeping us informed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have the Legislative Committee. Reverend Matias.
All right, that's me. Hey, sorry I'm not showing my face. I'm recovering from something, so little surgery. But in terms of the legislative, you probably saw an email that was dated November 1st that gave kind of an outline of some of the Michigan Triangle legislative priorities for lame duck. And so Michigan senators and representatives, you'll see information there. Bill 4240 or 4342 to expand available pool of substitute teachers. And so if you've been able to see that, as well as House Bill 6994, introduced, narrowly expands the Retirement Act to allow individuals to return to school. And so again, hopefully that helps us with the pool of people that we can draw into to be able to help us at this time. And then Bill 5059, it amends the Brownfield Redevelopment Funding Act. So just a few things that we've been dealing with in our legislative committee. That's all I have.
Thank you, Reverend Matias. And finally, we have the Policy Committee with Mrs. Davis.
All right. We did have a discussion regarding our role as a policy committee so that I could be better informed of what my colleagues thought and then bring that back to the Conference of the Committee Chairs. And then the most notable thing that we discussed was just a change in policy, which I believe is in our notes for this meeting and we're voting on later. But the policy is the General Public and Organizational Relations Policy. And basically the change is currently it says the superintendent will do all news releases and interviews, news conferences, etc. And we have added that it's superintendent or a designee of the superintendent. And we also added there's a portion of the policy that says in-person, telephone, written, and we added virtual to that because that seems to be something we needed.
Perfect, thank you. All right. Are there any quick comments or questions for any of the chairs? I know we moved that second half through really quickly, so I do want to make sure if there's a quick clarification or comment that you guys have a moment.
I think in the academic committee, there was also mentioned the social emotional aspects and just hearing, just some of the struggles that our families are facing, trying to get their kids their education and just the partnerships that we have. And so it was good to hear some of the things that are happening in regards to getting our family the kind of help under this stress that they're feeling.
Thank you. Okay, if there are no other comments, I will move to the superintendent's report.
Good evening, everyone, once again. As you know, we do our monthly Return to Learn update. Part of legislation requires that districts ask their board to reaffirm their Return to Learn plans, and we provide updates of different changes that have taken place regarding instructional models and other things. I will provide some updates of our current work, what we're doing moving into January 2021. Tonight, we are joined by Dr. Gorman, who is our Deputy Superintendent, who will go into the specifics around our Return to Learn. He is the Deputy Superintendent of Pre-K K-12 learning and leadership. And we have also invited health experts, Kent County Health Department, Dr. Nirali Bora, and then also our district Director of Nurses, Kim Barron, to provide information and answer health-related questions. And this goes to the conversations that we've been having, and you've asked to have our medical experts provide an overview of what's taking place. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Bora and Ms. Barron, and then Dr. Gorman will go into the details related to our Return to Learn plan. So welcome to you, Dr. Bora and Ms. Barron.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you. So thank you, President Grant, Dr. Broby, and members of the board for this chance just to talk with you. And Ms. Barron, if you would like to start off, I'd be happy with that, or I can go into some information I have, whatever you'd prefer.
No, you go ahead, Dr. Bora.
Okay, sounds good. So I'm a family physician and a medical director of the Kent County Health Department. And I just want to spend a couple minutes talking to you a little bit about our experience with schools over the past few months and some data that we have locally. I just want to share that with you and a chance for questions as well. So really our goal has been to find the right balance between keeping kids in school and mitigating the risk of COVID transmission within the school setting. So we know that there are risks to both solely online and solely in-person learning. But we do believe that with mitigation measures, schools can truly limit the transmission, especially in pre-K through 5 and possibly in higher grades. So just looking at the national data, what we know, this is also national data and from global studies that have been done in the past few months. From what we know with kids and COVID, and again, it's changing every day, every week we learn more information, but we know that kids who are under the age of 9 are less susceptible to getting COVID. If they do get COVID, children under the age of 10 are less contagious to other people. We know that people who are 20 and younger are half as likely to get COVID as those above the age of 20. But we do know that adolescents transmit the virus just as readily as adults if they do become infected. And also what's interesting in a recent study that 36% of children can be asymptomatic and still be positive with the virus. So looking a little bit at our local data, so we've had 27 outbreaks since school started in schools in Kent County, and this is elementary through high schools. An outbreak is defined as 2 or more children who have tested positive for COVID within the past 14 days and have clearly a shared space that they have shared in those 14 days. Our epidemiologist who looks at this data looks very carefully. Honestly, he's looking more at outbreaks which have 4 or more children that have been involved. The definition though is 2 or more. Looking at those outbreaks, we found that there are 8 elementary schools that have had outbreaks, which involving 57 students, 3 middle schools involving 33 students, and 16 high schools involving 441 students who have tested positive. So looking at this data, we can say that outbreaks are more common in the high school settings than they are in the elementary and middle school settings. We also know that mitigation measures work. We have found that kids do very well in wearing masks and keeping them on consistently. Even in preschool and kindergarten ages, kids are able to keep masks on all day long. We have found that distance is helpful. So the CDC recommends as close as 6 feet of distance between each student. AAP also says, and WHO says about 3 feet is okay as well. So between 3 and 6 feet between each student, we found that really reduces the number of children who end up being quarantined when there is a student who tests positive. Other mitigation measures that we found have been very helpful have been cohorting. So really cohorting is staff and students as much as possible. So they're not switching classrooms throughout the day. That really limits the exposure that group has. Reducing density is also very valuable. The fewer students that are in the classroom, the less risk there is to everyone involved. Symptom screening has also been very helpful. We found, at least anecdotally for sure, that parents have sent children to school who have symptoms, and as long as there's someone who's double checking that symptom screen and able to say, oh, look, I looked at your symptom screen, you have symptoms, and they send that child home. We've had many cases where those children are sent home and subsequently test positive for COVID. And finally, we know that PPE is protective. So having, wearing surgical masks, those flimsy things you get when you go to the doctor's office, those are actually very protective. That along with some kind of eye protection, even if it's wearing glasses, that combination is very protective in protecting the staff from becoming infected with the virus. And then the other thing I just wanted to mention is that this is something we're trying to talk with all schools about, is that really it should be a family decision on whether it's a virtual or in-person learning experience. We know that there are children with chronic health conditions, and we know that there are children who are being cared for or in close contact with adults who are very vulnerable, whether from their health conditions or because of their age. And those decisions that those families make will need to be different than what other families can make. And so with that in mind, with all that data and the information that we have from national resources and local and experts that we've called just to talk through our situation, we've developed a framework that really we hope takes into account community transmission along with the school's mitigation factors, so that we can provide some kind of guidance for schools and really a way to plan looking forward. It's really hard to make decisions on a 2 or 3 week basis, since we wanted some kind of a rubric so that families and schools can plan by knowing what the data shows locally. They have an understanding of what is safe and not safe in schools and what questions to be asking of their schools. We're also working on testing access for schools throughout the area, starting with staff, but hopefully being able to provide testing access to students. Again, another way to limit transmission and provide at least even peace of mind for people who are going into the school setting. So that is all I have right now. I'm happy to go into more details about any of it if there's interest.
Thank you so much. Ms. Barron, do you have any additional comments to share with us?
No, I don't, but I'm available to, assist with questions, but nothing to add.
All right, this is definitely a time to feel free to jump in with questions or comments. I know that we have been having conversations about all of the things that Dr. Bora shared with us as we have been assessing and talking more about dashboards that help us assess things in a more solidified manner. So feel free to follow up with questions. All right. Well, that means that you are such an effective communicator that all of our questions have been answered.
No, I was waiting to see if there are others that were going to ask questions, but apparently not.
Feel free.
So Ms. Barron, one of the things that I'd like you to speak about is specifically is what GRPS is doing, and then Dr. Bora, it's really good to have unbiased information so that our constituents and families can really feel confident in the information that they're getting, particularly through the board, but also through our district. So thank you.
So I can speak a little bit about, in response to some of the things that Dr. Bora talked about as far as mitigation strategies. I worked with Dr. Gorman and a team of administrators and a few principals to come around the student screener. And so we did develop a student screening tool to ask about symptoms and exposure. And that is part of the handbook that John Helmholtz's office put together. And so that's more detail is provided in there. And we did also talk about put together a process to have staff at the building level reviewing the screener, as Dr. Bora mentioned, each day, so that students who come to school were comparing it to the screener to make sure that there aren't any students who answered yes to any of the symptom questions and then did come to school that day. Dr. Gorman, I'm curious, is that something that you're going to cover in your update too? Am I going into some of your information?
I am, Kim. I'm going to stick to academics to the best of my abilities. So please feel free to handle anything medically related.
Okay. I didn't know if I was stepping on your information, but was that specifically what you were wanting to hear about, Reverend Matthias? Was the student screener that Dr. Bora mentioned?
Yeah, and specifically as we're looking forward, because our parents are going to be going into the holidays, but then also looking forward to the potential of hybrid, that the kinds of things that are in place now are going to be the kinds of things that they can look forward to, one, and that they do in their part, in terms of running through a list, checkpoints to make sure that when they send their kid to us, that they're ready, but then as we receive them too, that we're able to double check or check those things. And again, that confidence level is there, both our teachers, our parents, and our communities, so that we can be confident that we're doing all those things. Obviously, we can't provide a sterile environment, but given the best science and given the best ways of doing things, and then teaching our kids to do those things, that we can have the best possible results.
Absolutely. Yeah, so the students who will come to school in cohort A Monday and Tuesday, on Sunday night and Monday night, an email and text will go out with a link to the screening tool, and then the same for cohort B. So they'll receive their email and text on Wednesday night and Thursday night for their Thursday, Friday school. And then, like I mentioned, those results will be reviewed at the building level and compared to who's in the building that day, to make sure that we touch base with any students who may be there who answered yes. Also, our nurses are working with school staff every day to teach them more and more about the symptoms and how to recognize students who may be in the classroom who are showing symptoms. And we've created isolation spaces in the buildings so that, and they're being told, if you identify a student who has symptoms, that those students need to immediately be sent to the isolation space, and that the health services team needs to be contacted immediately to assess the student, determine if it could be a COVID-related symptom, and then work through the process of getting them home. We've also been ordering and distributing PPE, so staff and students have PPE available in the buildings. I think those are the major mitigation strategies that we've been working on so far.
Excellent. I appreciate that. And again, the really critical information in terms of how it's spread and what age group and comorbid factors, those kinds of things that we just continue to need that stressed to our constituents. The other I guess issue or comment would be making sure that our partners, our community partners, also have that information in case they get questions asked. They can at least refer to something that says, here's what the district is saying. And again, have that confidence that, yes, mom, dad, you can rely on this information in terms of making your decision or those kinds of things. So appreciate it.
All right. Thank you. Anyone else? Any other follow-up? Okay. Well, thank you very much, Dr. Bora. Thank you very much, Ms. Barron. We are going to move to action items.
Thank you.
President Grant, if I can interrupt, I'm sorry. Dr. Gorman still had a portion of the report.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
It's okay, Ms. Grant. I'll try to be as brief as possible. So, President Grant, members of the board, Superintendent Roby, thank you for allowing me to provide an opportunity. Thank you for providing this opportunity for me to share the Return to Learn update. As you are aware, from the spring of last year, we have been in a 100% virtual space with our students. To begin the school year in our COVID response plan, we started out, of course, in a 100% virtual environment. We as a district became one-to-one for the first time, which included getting our pre-K 1 students iPads, and of course our 2 through 12 students Chromebooks, as well as internet access from one of our cable providers or a hotspot. So we ensured that all of our students were connected before we went 100% virtual. To begin the second marking period, our plan was to engage in a hybrid model for our students. If you go onto our website under Corona Resources, you will see our plan for the hybrid model as it relates to when we get back to school. We decided for the second marking period that we were going to stay in a 100% virtual model. What we've done is we've tweaked that in collaboration with the GREA. So our model initially was 3 days of synchronous instruction for our elementary students, and then 2 days of asynchronous instruction for that particular group. For our high schools, we had 4 days of synchronous instruction, and then Fridays for both groups were really planning days, days to connect with students, and also opportunities for meetings or PLCs, professional learning communities, in buildings. As we moved into the second marking period, to add more synchronous time, what we did at the elementary level is we added a day of synchronous instruction. So 3 more hours of synchronous instruction, Zoom meetings comparable to this particular model we're using this evening. So we were able to add 1 more day for elementaries. So now both elementary and high school or secondary have 4 days of synchronous instruction per week. One thing that we also did in the first marking period was we had office hours in the afternoons where students could connect with their teachers. And what we found, what we heard from our teachers and others is, in many instances, there were some students who needed to take advantage of these opportunities who did not take advantage of these opportunities. Therefore, we have worked with our teachers. Our teachers are now predetermining the students that they're working with in the afternoon. So they have their 3 hours of synchronous time in the morning, and then they're working with students in the afternoon in small groups. And I've seen this in action firsthand. This is a tremendous resource that's out there right now where teachers can work with smaller groups of students. So really the tweaks from the first marking period to the second marking period added synchronous time, and also really some more one-to-one support in the afternoon. And so as of right now, our participation rates of students who are logging in during synchronous time, those for the week of November 9 through 13, 90% of our students participated during synchronous time. For the week of November 16 through 20, 84.62% of our students have participated during synchronous time. This number has gone, it usually ranges between probably 80% and 90%. We had a couple of low weeks when we were ending the marking period and we were preparing for a hybrid model where teachers were setting up their classrooms, et cetera. But the last couple of weeks, we have averaged about, 87% of our students participating during synchronous time. That's just like we're participating right now. The learning platforms, just a refresher, the pre-K-5 folks are using something called Seesaw to keep track of all of their assignments. The high school folks, the secondary folks are using Google Classroom. This is a platform with which they were familiar in the spring. And then we also have 3 schools that are engaging in a pilot for a learning management system or an LMS. That's Westwood, Burton, and Museum Middle and High School. Just a couple of other pieces of information for our families. If there are any technological challenges or they need additional resources, our families can call 301-1111 or log on to Distance Learning Help Desk at grps.org. Also, if our families go to grps.org, if they click on coronavirus resources, they can see everything related to coronavirus that we are doing in our school district. And probably one of the most important things that our parents will see are the FAQs. So that's a running list of frequently asked questions that is updated all of the time. Lastly, as it relates to everything we're doing, this was the first year that we aligned our high school schedule or our pre-K-12 schedule with the college schedule. And the reason we did that is because we have so many high school students who are engaging in dual enrollment courses, and we wanted better alignment with exams. And so next week, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, those dates are the 16th, 17th, and 18th, we will have exams. They will be virtual exams. These exams will run from 9 o'clock until 11:50. The first exam is 9 until 10:20, and the second exam is from 10:30 until 11:50. District-wide, there will be 3 half days next week to close out the week on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, students will have no assignments in the afternoon other than studying for those exams because they are 10% of our students' grades. The elementary schedules will not change as it relates to instruction, but again, there will be no student responsibilities in the afternoon. And then Ms. Lewis, one point of clarification. The SAT that's going to take place late in January is specifically for those juniors who, when they were sophomores, didn't get the opportunity to take it. Our 8th, 9th, and 10th graders will still have the opportunity to take their standardized tests in the spring after spring break. So we haven't heard anything from MDE that they're going to be canceled. As of right now, we need to prepare our students for those assessments. Dr. Roby and Ms. Grant, that's all I have.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gorman. I think that was several updates, but a great overview. And I know we've had some of those portions of conversation around some of those topics in academic achievement. But are there any questions for clarification or any comments from anyone else? All right. Thank you very much. And I believe that we would be ready to move to action items for this evening. The first action item that we have on our agenda is the superintendent's evaluation. That item is going to have to be moved to the end of the agenda because the evaluation has not been completed yet. We began the evaluation at 5:30 and we were not done in time to start the 6:30 board meeting. So we are going to complete tonight's agenda, and then we will go back into closed session to complete the superintendent's evaluation. We will come out of closed session back into a meeting. We don't have an exact time, but when we are complete, we will be able to come back to the board meeting. So the board meeting won't technically be adjourned. We will just be going into closed session for a moment to complete the evaluation. We will come back out and vote on the superintendent's evaluation once it is complete. I hope that is a clear assessment of Ms. Shockey. Do you have any comments around that? Or
Nope, you got it just right.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, wonderful. So we will move to the next action item, which is the resolution to ratify the collective bargaining agreements. And Dr. Roby, I don't know if you would like to have someone give us an overview quickly before we take a vote on that.
Sure. So if Mr. Grieve, if you can call Sharon Pitts forward and I think also Larry Oberst forward. I want to make sure I have the right people.
Sorry, Dr. Roby. It's actually Larry Oberst because this is the financial. This is only a financial reopening.
Thank you for the clarification. Thank you. Still learning.
Thank you. Good evening, Dr. Roby, President Grant, and board members. Came to you, I don't know, a month or so ago, and you approved dollar amounts to move forward on financial bargaining for all our unions. We have settled with 3 of those unions, and tonight, and they have ratified their contracts, and tonight we're coming to you to ratify the contracts on behalf of the school district. The 3 unions that have settled so far, first of all, is the Gray Op Union, which is Secretary's Office personnel. Basically, the financial settlement was 25-cent increase on each step. No steps were granted this year, but 25-cent increase in each step. For those members that were on the top step, They also got a $250 off-schedule stipend, which will be paid in January. And then as we also got approval from you about a month ago, the insurance hard caps will be increased beginning January 1st to the new state maximum hard caps. The second union is GREOA, which are our family support specialists and our ROTC instructors. The ROTC wage levels for those teachers are actually set by the U.S. Army and subsidized in part by the Army. So that's really up to them, and we in the union abide by the compensation schedule that the Army dictates to us. But for the rest of the family support specialist, same thing, an increase in the insurance hard cap beginning January 1st, 2021. And they got a 35-cent per hour increase at all steps. No steps will be granted this year. And then the last union we've settled with so far is a Grayson union, which is the child care workers, the physical therapy assistants, occupational therapy assistants, LPNs, and employment training specialists, a large group there. Hard cap increase for that group effective January 1st, 2021. That was one of the unions that a number of years ago, I want to say 15 or more years ago, the district had gone to a dual compensation schedule that frankly just wasn't working out. And we've been actually over the last couple of years have been merging those two schedules into one schedule. We made the final merge, if you will, this year. So now we've taken those two, we call them Schedule A and Schedule B, merged them into just one schedule that will be used going forward. And then so for that step, for that group, we merged the schedules. They got everyone got eligible, got a step increase. And then for those on the top step, they are getting a one-time $500 stipend, have to be paid in January and have to be paid in April. And again, all three of these contracts have been ratified by the members. And we ask tonight that the board ratify the contracts on behalf of the district.
Thank you very much, Mr. Oberst. All right, do I have a motion to approve the resolution to ratify collective bargaining agreements for GREOA and Grayson?
So moved.
Support.
Ms. Lewis, can you please take the roll on that?
Ms. Lewis, you're muted.
All right. Ms. Shockey,
Yes.
Ms. Williams,
Yes.
Dr. Baker,
Yes.
Ms. Davis,
Yes.
Dr. Flores,
Yes.
Ms. Lewis, yes. Reverend Matthias,
Yes.
Mr. Ross,
Yes.
President Grant,
Yes,
motion carries.
thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the purchasing agenda?
So moved.
Support.
Thank you, Ms. Lewis.
Ms. Shockey,
Yes.
Ms. Williams,
Yes.
Dr. Baker,
Yes.
Ms. Davis,
Yes.
Dr. Flores,
Yes.
Ms. Lewis, yes. Reverend Matthias,
Yes.
Mr. Ross,
Yes.
President Grant,
Yes.
motion carries.
Do I have a motion to approve the purchasing agenda addendum?
So moved.
Support.
Ms. Lewis?
Ms. Shockey,
Yes.
Mrs. Williams,
Yes.
Dr. Baker,
Yes.
Ms. Davis,
Yes.
Dr. Flores,
Yes.
Ms. Lewis, yes. Reverend Matias,
Yes.
Mr. Ross,
Yes.
President Grant,
Yes.
motion carries.
Can I have a motion to approve the annual summer property tax resolution?
So moved.
Or
All right, Ms. Shockey,
Yes.
Mrs. Williams,
Yes.
Dr. Baker,
Yes.
Ms. Davis,
Yes.
Dr. Flores,
Yes.
Ms. Lewis, yes. Reverend Matias,
Yes.
Mr. Ross,
yes.
President Grant,
Yes.
motion carries.
All right. Do I have a motion to approve the annual banking resolution?
Move.
So,
Support.
Thank you. Ms. Lewis?
Jackie,
Yes.
Mrs. Williams,
yes.
Dr. Baker,
Yes.
Ms. Davis,
Yes.
Dr. Flores,
Yes.
Ms. Lewis, yes. Reverend Matias,
Yes.
Mr. Ross,
Yes.
President Grant,
Yes.
motion carries.
All right. Next, do I have a motion to approve the COVID legislative platform?
So moved.
Or
Can we have discussion on this?
Yes.
Yeah, first of all, I just like to voice my support for these COVID-related changes. And I know that we have been asked by the Grand Rapids Chamber to consider waiving, to not temporarily suspend the teacher evaluations. And I just like to say that, first of all, I appreciate their support over the years and advocacy and engagement with the district. But I do agree strongly that it's important for us to ask for suspension of the teacher and administration evaluation, mainly for two reasons. First of all, I know that a lot of people want accountability through teacher evaluations, but I know that this is not the only way that the district gets accountability, and that there are other methods. And I think accountability is very important to the district, certainly assessing teaching and learning. But the evaluation system is just one way to create accountability. And secondly, it's very clear that this evaluation system, first of all, I think misses some things on a regular basis, but certainly this evaluation system was not created for COVID and the situations that we're in at this time. So for those reasons, I'm really happy that the district is and the board is considering to ask the legislature to waive for this year.
I would agree with you, Dr. Baker, and I would also like to add that I feel as though the time commitment for administrators to do all of the evaluations, the way that the evaluation system is set up, I feel like that time could be better spent given what we are going through as a district. And I feel like our administrators could support our teachers and gather information needed in a more efficient way if we had just a little bit more leniency as far as evaluations go. I think their time could be better used.
I also think that it's critical that, obviously our teachers and parents are making an extremely good faith effort to try and educate, given these unique circumstances that we're faced with, of no fault of ours or theirs, but that whatever learning that can happen, that we've given them the best tools and supports to accomplish that.
I do have one question for clarity on number 5. It says substitute teacher pool expansion, temporarily allow school employees to substitute teach for the 2020-21 school year due to COVID. Which school employees are we talking there? Is there something missing?
Mrs. Grant, would you like me to answer that? Or
Yes.
Okay. So at present, we have a policy of 90 credit hours for any staff member, so support staff, any staff member who has at least 90 credit hours, which would put them at around their junior year of college. And this particular legislative update allows a little bit more flexibility so that we can expand our pool of subs. And because our staff have all been vetted and have gone through different trainings and such, there are more eligible staff members who may not necessarily have the 90 credit hours. And so this sets aside that particular requirement for this current school year as we are in the midst of a pandemic. And then statewide, they're saying, because that's a district criteria, statewide it's 60. And so we're looking at possibly going to 60 credit hours. So that, again, expands the number of staff members that are eligible to us once we do return to school full time, to allow more available staff, as there is a teacher shortage and a substitute shortage in our region.
Thank you for the criteria clarification, Dr. Roby.
Thank you. Any more comments on the legislative piece or questions? And Dr. Baker, I do want to say thank you for taking time to slow down on that piece. I do think it is important, and we all did receive communication from the Grand Rapids Chamber, and I'm sure there may be other people who have thoughts and concerns around this as well. And we do always appreciate engagement and feedback. I personally would like to say, though, that in any other profession right now, if people were being evaluated, if we sat down and did an evaluation and walked in someone's office right now, that would be a really, really difficult thing to do, but especially this particular industry and this particular job. So as people have been put through multiple changes, going through multiple platforms to teach our students and to engage them every day in an environment where you can't physically reach your students, I know it's extremely hard. That doesn't mean that we don't have improvements to make. It doesn't mean that there aren't places where we could be doing better, but in an evaluation sense, you want to be able to say that we've given this person all the tools possible to succeed, and now let's evaluate if they were able to do things well. And we cannot say that this year. It's the same for our students. We will have to find ways to give grace, and I'm glad that we're advocating for grace. So with that, if there are no other comments, I would like to once again ask for a motion to approve the COVID legislative platform.
So moved.
Support.
Thank you, Ms. Lewis.
Ms. Shockey,
Yes.
Mrs. Williams,
Yes.
Dr. Baker,
Yes.
Ms. Davis,
Yes.
Dr. Flores,
Yes.
Ms. Lewis, yes. Reverend Matias,
Yes.
Mr. Ross,
Yes.
President Grant,
Yes,
motion carries.
thank you. Next, we have policy 9020 for news media relations and the presentation of the first reading. Ms. Davis, are you able to give us some background on this?
Yeah, that's the policy I spoke about in the update on the policy committee. So this is giving the superintendent the ability to designate somebody to do media releases, including virtual. We added to this policy, basically taking, not saying that the superintendent is the sole person for media releases, but can also designate someone.
Wonderful, thank you. Do I have a motion to approve policy 9020?
So moved.
Support.
Ms. Lewis, you are free to, to go.
All right, I won't
right
even
ahead.
wait from now on, okay. Ms. Shockey,
Yes.
Ms. Williams,
Yes.
Dr. Baker,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Dr. Flores,
Yes.
Ms. Lewis, yes, Reverend Matias,
Yes.
Mr. Ross,
Yes.
President Grant,
Yes.
motion carries.
All right. Last but not least, we have the nomination for a Miss Catherine Downs Lewis to serve as the MASB, to serve on the MASB Board of Directors. Ms. Lewis, would you like to make a speech or?
Oh, yes, I would like to
comment?
make a long, detailed speech. Well, this is the one I ran for last year and lost, and you know how I hate to lose. But I got a note from MASB saying that somebody in our region, because we're all broken up into regions, somebody in our region has didn't run for school board again. So obviously you can't be on the board if you're not on a school board. So I was sort of encouraged by some people from the Kenner Intermediate Association to try for it. So one more time, I'll try, you know, I'll try to be good and not embarrass any of you.
No, not at all. Do I have a motion to approve this nomination?
C.
Or
All
Now
right.
I-
Ms. Lewis,
now
would you
I-
like to take the
Now I
roll?
have to- now I have to call, so somebody really will say no for sure. Ms. Shecky?
Yes.
Yes. Mrs. Williams?
Yes.
Dr. Baker?
Yes.
Ms. Davis?
Yes.
Dr. Flores?
Yes.
Ms. Lewis? Yes. Reverend Matias?
C.
Mr. Ross?
yes.
And President Grant?
Yes.
Motion carries. I
All
will
right,
keep
do I-
apprised of everything I'm doing for my campaign too.
Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda grouping?
So moved.
Support.
Ms. Shecky?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Dr. Baker?
Yes.
Ms. Davis?
Yes.
Dr. Flores?
Yes.
Ms. Lewis, yes. Reverend Matias?
Yes.
Mr. Grant? Mr. Ross? Mr. Grant?
Yes.
Oh well. Mr. Ross
Yes.
and President Grant.
Yes.
Motion
I'm going
carries.
to say my father is not on this
Miss-
meeting.
Miss Grant.
All right, so we have one item under discussion items, which is confirming the date for our organizational meeting next year. That date will be January 4th, 2021. So I look forward to seeing you all. Next, we do have public comments. Let me pull we have Nancy Haynes. Craig, is Nancy still with us? All right, perfect. So to give a really brief overview, you have 3 minutes for public comment. Board members will be listening and taking notes. And if there's anything that we need to follow up with you about, we will be sure to follow up, but we are not able to respond directly at this time. So thank you very much, and we will start your time now.
Okay, I'll try to talk really fast. I'm a parent and I've been a longtime supporter of GRPS, but I'm very disappointed in the Return to Learn program plan. I think it's failing our children. I think it's a civil rights issue. My son is he's being denied 60% of what other high school students in our area are getting. Seeing a teacher twice a week for an hour when a lot of that time is spent just getting people logged on, and it's not effective. And I don't know how. I've got 2 sons who go to Kennewa Hills, and they're sophomores, and they were, they started virtual, and they were 6 or 5 days a week, 6 hours a day, and they were doing block scheduling. Then we went virtual. And then they went to school, and then they went virtual recently.
And they started with the block scheduling, but now they realize that the kids need to see their teachers each day when they're virtual. So they're 4 days a week, 6 hours a day. So they're seeing their teacher. They're getting most of what their high school education should be. And then I compare that with what my senior son is getting at Frost, and it's just embarrassing. And I don't know how they'll ever catch up. And I'm really, really worried about, that disparity that existed between our students in GRPS and outlining districts. And I think that it's only been exacerbated by this return to learn plan. And I think that it's a civil rights issue because we're denying them, our students, equitable access to education. I think that I was frustrated to hear about the suspension of teacher evaluations because I don't, then we're giving a free pass. My son only has this year to be a senior and have 12th grade English and AP comp or AP statistics. And it's just not cutting the mustard. And I don't know how we're going to realize that. Today, when you talked about academic achievement, I heard about the one-to-one technology, and then I heard about the tweaking, which nothing changed for my student because he's not struggling, but he's not being pushed either. It's just, we're trying to not, hold the students harmless, but we're not pushing them forward. And so I heard nothing about the quality of the education, and I don't know if anyone's measuring that. I think we do need to do some evaluations because we have to show whether or not our model that you guys voted on and decided is working. I also think we should be doing symptom screening, even when they're not in school. With Kenowa Hills, every morning I have to do symptom screening, even when they're virtual, and that way they can track student infection rates. And then finally, when Dr. Bora talked about it should be a family decision, we weren't given a decision. We're stuck with this 40% of education. So thank you. I tried to speak at the last meeting, but I did YouTube. So one other thing I would suggest is if you could send out a Zoom link.
3 minutes, Ms. Grant.
Could you send out a Zoom link to all the parents so that it's easier for them to connect? I think you'll get a lot more participation in school board meetings if you make it easier for people to connect to the school board meetings. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Haynes. All right. What question that I have right now is, will we go into close before final comments?
I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that we can comment on the evaluation afterward. I would prefer that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So this is the point where we will reconvene in closed session to finish out the superintendent's evaluation. Thank you very much for joining us. We unfortunately do not have an exact time. We are estimating about another hour in evaluation. So it's 8 o'clock now. The estimate is that at 9 o'clock, around that time, we will be leaving closed session, coming back into open and voting on the superintendent's evaluation and making final comments.
Shooting to make it shorter.
I'm sorry?
We'll be hoping that it'll be shorter.
Yeah.
Yes. So at this time, we will take a moment for attendees to
Ms. Grant,
leave. Yes.
I have to call it back into session. Closed. I have to call it back. We have to call it back into closed.
Yes, we're not there yet, right?
Okay. Okay.
Yes, thank you. So,
okay.
yeah, so we're going to take a few moments to allow everyone time to leave, and Craig will also be helping with that process. And then that's when we'll be able to call it to read into close, but we'll wait for the attendee list to. All right, let's take a 5-minute break while we wait for that to happen. So let's convene in 5 minutes. You can just turn your camera and your mic off for a moment.
cares deeply about the success of our students and staff, even though you've barely met them. A positive, hopeful, and optimistic spirit is what you have, with a willingness and a tenacity to inspect our systems for what to grow and what to let go. So on behalf of the Board of Education, I say thank you for saying yes to Grand Rapids Public Schools. So over the past 4 months, the Board of Education has received evidence to complete Dr. Roby's first superintendent evaluation. Per our policy, we need to complete an evaluation prior to year end. So Dr. Roby has been evaluated on 11 characteristics using the school advanced process. And this evening, it is my pleasure to make a motion to provide Dr. Roby with the evaluation rating of highly effective.
Second.
All right. Can you take the roll, Ms. Lewis?
Yes. Ms. Schottky.
Yes.
Mrs. Williams.
Yes.
Dr. Baker.
Yes.
Ms. Davis.
Yes.
Dr. Flores.
Yes.
Ms. Lewis, yes. Reverend Matias.
Yes.
Mr. Ross.
Yes.
President Grant.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Congratulations.
Yes, wonderful.
All right, so let's move into superintendent's comments.
So first of all, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for entrusting me to lead this organization. Thank you, board, for giving me the space to be and show up as my authentic self, and so that I can continue to learn and grow. I have promised and committed to you and to our staff and students that I'm committed to Grand Rapids Public Schools. I desire to learn and grow together with all of you and with all of our broader community. I am coming from a place of gratitude. I know that this is my first superintendency, but I will promise you that I will always give 120%, that I will always show up and try to do my very best, and that I come from a spirit of learning. So even the places where I make mistakes, I own it and will continue to get better each day. So again, thank you for that, picking me in February, and thank you for just all the support and encouragement that you've given me over the past 10 months. I am also appreciative to our community, our district and building leaders, our staff, our parents, and our students for showing up. This has been a very challenging year. No matter what you say about 2020, I think we can all just acknowledge that it's been challenging, but we're coming from a place of hope. We're on the other side of that. And as I lead this organization, I want to encourage and invite people to still be hopeful. We are going to continue to grow. We're going to continue to try and do our best for our students. And so thank you for that. That completes my comments.
Thank you very much. We will move to board member comments. Ms. Lewis, I will start with you.
I'm just so glad that Dr. Roby decided to take our offer and come to work for us, because it was one of the best decisions. Maybe it was the best thing I did through the entire 2020. So glad you're here.
Thank you. Ms. Davis.
Oh, I'm not on mute. Jen, you got me all teary-eyed in just your presentation of that, because you're just so eloquent with your words, and I just feel exactly what you had said. And I just wrote down a few things that came to mind as you were talking, Dr. Roby. I'm just thankful that we have a humble leader with a growth mindset in this time. And I think you're just a strong person that's clear, organized, and you have a calm way of leading that helps people stay grounded and hopeful. So thank you so much for all of those things.
Thank you, Kim. Next, Dr. Baker.
Yeah, just copy my colleagues, but really happy that you're here. Really happy that 2021 will be a time for making much better than this year. But anyway, just really appreciate you and looking forward to the work ahead.
Wonderful. Ms. Shockey.
Well, I had already had a chance to say most of what I wanted to say, so I'll just say it's been an honor and a privilege to work with you through the evaluation process. It's been just a joy to step through the work with you and to bring you to the end of your first evaluation. So thank you.
All right, Mr. Ross.
Can't really say much else. I kind of laugh when Ms. Davis just said what she said about the Interior Act, because, I wanted to joke in the chat and tell Jen to, slow down on all that heartstring stuff she was doing. But it was, sincere, it was genuine, and I think that's reflective of probably the thoughts of all of us, and mirrors the sincerity and genuineness that Dr. Roby brings to this role as well. And just appreciative of also, for sure.
Thank you. Dr. Flores.
Yes, congratulations, Dr. Roby. You are a top-notch educator, and certainly proud to have you here in Grand Rapids, and I'm sure all of the community support that assessment also.
Thank you. Mrs. Williams.
Well, thank you, Dr. Roby. I appreciate your dedication and your resilience through this COVID process, and I look forward with excitement to where your leadership is going to take the district. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Matias.
Dr. Roby, congratulations on your highly effective rating. I appreciate the fact that you see our children and our families as worth investing in, and our staff. And so look forward to continuing to work with you as you move our district forward. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, Dr. Roby, congratulations on a highly effective rating. It has been a tough year. It's definitely been my privilege to get to know you more. And I think this is a really fitting last meeting for me. This will be my last board meeting as president. And so it's been my